Hey, Marker Man, and I should probably just say the Victor team, Joe and Mary Beth here. What a privilege it is for us to be able to do this. We're excited about it. We cannot wait to be able to share what's on our mind and on our heart about what's great about this Amway business and about what we do with our lives. And so, Mary Beth, real quick, kind of kick it off and We'll get into this.
All right, hello everyone. Like Joe said, we are excited to be here, and actually it's quite an honor for Jody and Kathy to ask us to come speak with you. We've been with you, it's been a few years that we were with you before, and so we're excited to be back. And so for those of you, I'm sure there's new people that are watching that don't know who we are. We are Joe and Mary Beth Markowitz. We live in Raleigh, North Carolina, and we have 3 grown children. One just turned 30, 28, and 26. And we now have 2 baby grandsons. So we are excited about that. So life is exciting. Joe and I got started. We were not married. We were just dating. We met in college and dated for a few years in college. And then we moved to North Carolina with his job. And then I found a job in Raleigh as well. And that's kind of a coworker asked Joe if he'd ever look for ways to make extra money. And that's kind of how things progressed with us and how it got started. Nothing big, nothing fancy. It was just a conversation every day. And it led to us being here today. So imagine that. Pretty cool.
Imagine that. A lot between that date and where we are today.
Yeah,
in fact,
sure.
The truth be told, I like to think we're still young kids, but we're not. We've actually been building this Amway business for over 3 decades, 37 plus years. Let me just say this before we get into our topic today. Mary Beth mentioned that we are extremely grateful and honored that Jody and Kathy and Steve and Marcia, Joe and Kelly would send an invitation to us to be able to share. We don't take this lightly. And the reason being is because, Jody and Kathy are, and I know this is so cliche, and those of you on the Victor team, you're like, we see Jody and Kathy all the time, but we don't, not in this capacity. I know Jody and Kathy primarily through the IBOAI board. Both Mary Beth and I are currently serving. At this point, I'm the vice chair. Mary Beth serves as an advisor, I guess you would say, to business operations. But on a personal level, Jody and Kathy are like a dad and mom to us in this business. I can't even begin to tell you what Jody means to me as a mentor, as a friend, as somebody who took me under his wing many, many years ago. And boy, I needed some help. Boy, I loved this business. I loved doing what we did. But when I got introduced into the board and I had a chance to serve on there, I had a lot to learn. And I know Kathy is smiling because she remembers those days. And so what can I say? Jody obviously saw something in me that, and he invested in me and put time and effort and heart into developing Joe Markowitz as not just a board member, but an IBO leader. He's taught me so much about not just the ways of life, but within the board and within the Amway business, how to be a better leader, how to be a better husband, how to be a better business owner, and certainly how to be an asset to all of my colleagues on the board. Jody, you are and have always been a hero to me, to Mary Beth and I. I will say this, I'll never forget you and Kathy showing up at my dad's funeral celebration of life here a couple of years ago. My heart was overwhelmed that you would care to take the time to do that. How many times you pulled me aside, talked to me about the affairs of life, the affairs of this business, things that are going on behind the scenes. I can't tell you how many times Jody would call me up, just give me a call, or I would call him and say, hey, Jody, I just need a couple of minutes. I want to run something past you. And an hour later, I'm looking at my phone. It's over an hour. And Jody, you're telling stories about the board, about the history of Amway, about relationships that you have, things that you've learned. And I would go, and I just, and I remember asking this, I said, Jody, I asked you for like a couple of minutes, just a couple of minutes, to be able to ask you a question about something that was going on. Maybe it was a mediation, maybe it was a difficult situation or something coming up. And I'd be sitting there and I pulled my phone away and I'm seeing this is over an hour. You know how many people in the world of Amway would love to be able to get this time? And I asked you point blank, I said, Jody, why me? Why me? Now you would say something like, because you're the one. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He said, no, I believe in you, Joe, and you have a bright future, and I just want to invest time into you. You know how few people ever have that opportunity in this world? And seriously, I could talk a whole hour about experiences and about things I've learned from you, Jody. You're like a dad to me. Thank you. And I just trust, I hope that I continue to earn your respect, Jody and Kathy, and to honor you and honor the history of your business, your family's business, which is now 4th generation in the Amway business, and that you, when you go to bed at night, you're confident that your future and the future of your children and your children's children are secure because of Joe and Mary Beth and people like us are still doing what we do. We honor you. We appreciate you so much. Mary Beth, we might as well just get into it. And let's go at it. We've got a little bit less than an hour with you. And let me first address the newer IBOs. Over in LTD, we call them apprentices. And I'm not quite sure that's what you call them, but they're first contract year IBOs. And I got to tell you what, first of all, congratulations for starting your own business. I think this is a big deal. Some people misinterpret and they look at the fact that it doesn't cost you anything to register in the Amway business. And 2, in terms of your training and education within your approved provider for the first contract year, it's complimentary. And some people look at this as, free equals cheap. And I'm gonna tell you what, far from it. What you're doing is you're getting a glimpse at who we are as an organization, the value that we put on this Amway business and in business ownership specifically, and the kind of content and the value we bring to you so you can build a solid, stable, profitable, long-term, and sustainable Amway business. We're gonna demonstrate that for you, and you can't walk away from this and say, boy, they just, in that first year, they just cost me a lot of money. It just isn't the case. We take this very seriously. So to the apprentices, to the first contract year IBOs, congratulations for starting your business. We hope to be able to pass on something to you today that will increase your belief in terms of if you put time into this business and do the right kind of work, that it will produce results. Mary Beth and I cannot promise you, your upline cannot promise you any degree of success. You all know that. We can't guarantee any degree of success. We can't promise wealth, fame, and fortune. We're not even going to talk about that stuff here today. We're not going to promise you a time frame. All we can do is we can show you a business that's been around for over 65 years. And the construct of that business, the foundation of that business, we get a chance to stand on the shoulders of some of the greats in this business, and we can learn from their behaviors, we can learn from their techniques. Listen, success is repeatable, at least the behaviors are. I can't say, words like success is duplicatable, that success by itself, if you just get in and you'll be successful. That is far from it. But what I can say is that the behaviors that successful people exhibit are repeatable. Those are duplicatable. And we know that there's a pattern, and I'm going to talk about that. Mary Beth's going to touch upon it. There's a pattern and some characteristics that successful people display that over the years are going to put you in a better position to succeed, to be more profitable, to have a long-term, solid, stable business. And that's what we want to talk about here today. You're going to probably pick up that Mary Beth and I believe in this business. We believe in this environment. We believe in the people that have built this business. This is a good business. I've said it time and time again. This is a good business, far from perfect. We know how to teach people to make money. Now, what your goal is and what the outcomes that you're after, it may vary. Maybe it might be small, modest income, maybe some extra dollars on the side through retail sales. Other people come in this and they see more of a long-term outlook and the potential with that. Well, way to go. Any degree of success in this business is going to require legitimate time and effort. You just need to know that. And I know you hear that over and over again, but it's true. And so I first mentioned a congrats out to the first contract year IBOs. You started your business, you're here, you're watching. I hope that you're taking notes. I hope you're focused. But I also want to address those IBOs that have been a little more tenured, a little more mature. People like Mary Beth and I. You've seen an awful lot. You've been around this business for a long time, and you've experienced, some of you experienced some pretty good success. Other people, you're still climbing, and that's perfectly fine. I got to tell you what, we wear our experience in the years in this business like a badge of honor. We really do. We don't look back on it in a negative way. We actually look back on it as, look at all the lessons we've learned. There's a book, if your upline recommends it, that's fine. But it speaks about, there's a difference between the gap and the gain. A lot of people over the years, they look at where they're at and where they want to be. They see the gap. And a lot of times that brings in sometimes regrets, sometimes they wish they were further along. But I'm going to encourage you to look at the gains you've had, the things that you have accomplished, the gains that you had in terms of relationships, your experience, in terms of the profit that you have made, in terms of your outlook on life, your perspective, that there's a difference between the gap and the gain. And so I purposely brought together a lot of stories today about the gains. And I'm going to talk about the potential of this business today, which I think is as good, if not better, than anything I've ever seen before. Look, 65 years in this business, or in existence, that being the Amway business. Of course, Jody and Kathy, absolutely, they know the history of it very, very well. Second generation, and now Stephen, Marcia, and Joe and Kelly, evidence of the third generation building this business. And now I hear fourth generation. So nobody can deny the longevity and the stability of this Amway business. But also where we're at today in 2025. Recent Forbes article I read is that there's over 64 million Americans. This is from the year 2023. And it's obviously we're in 2025 right now, so it's got to be more than that. But 64 million Americans are doing some sort of freelance or side hustle or side gig, whatever you want to call it, work outside of their day jobs. Some of the people out there aren't really that interested in having a traditional day job. Nothing wrong with having a day job. My day job, I was educated as a mechanical engineer. I graduated from Rochester Institute of Technology. I took a job with IBM down here in Raleigh, North Carolina. They call it Research Triangle Park. And had no regrets about that, very appreciative of that, outstanding. But I will tell you this, there's, in today's economy, today's marketplace, over 64 million people are already freelancing or side hustles because they're looking for more control over their economics. They're looking for more control over their calendars, and they'd like to be able to determine their own future. It's not uncommon that people would have, especially Gen Zs, not uncommon to have one or two or even three side hustles or something on the side that they're doing. And look at what we're doing. We give people a chance to have a business of their own. For the majority of people, it's a part-time gig or a side hustle, as some people might call it, and bring in the aspect of training and mentorship and guidance, a roadmap, if you will. And we accommodate people with big goals and outcomes that they want to accomplish, or people with more modest goals. Either way, we got a plan. Gen Zs, a lot of people out there that are watching us right now are in the Gen Zs, and the younger population, over 50% of them are currently using some sort of a freelance or a side hustle today to make extra money. So pretty much when you talk to a younger person, either they're already got some freelance or side hustle going on, or they know somebody doing it. This is why I believe we're in the right place at the right time. So for Joe and Mary Beth, no doubt. We love being in business for ourselves. The concept of self-determination and free enterprise, and we work very hard in our business. I'm not going to lie to you, but the fact is, you call your own shots. Mary Beth and I, with tons of commitment, a lot of focus, a lot of energy, a lot of work, we've got to where we're at today. We actually like that. We like the fact that we can determine our own future and how we live. So, Mary Beth, that kind of sets us up for what you're going to talk about here today. I mentioned that success patterns are repeatable. Characteristics and behaviors, especially within the Amway business, is repeatable. And we're going to talk about some of those lessons learned. We're going to talk about some stories along the way, with the intent of raising your belief that you made a good decision to start this business, that you made a good decision to commit to it. Like I said before, this is a good business, far from perfect. What makes it less than perfect, Mary Beth?
We're dealing with people.
People. The great thing about this Amway business is that people are involved. The tough thing about this business is that people are involved. That's the great challenge. I wouldn't have it any other way. But it's a good business, not perfect. People make mistakes. I know some people have really, they've really messed it up, and maybe because they were a little too selfish or they had a different perspective. But I will tell you, we do know how to show people how to make money. We know how to show it to them. It's up to them whether they apply themselves, but it's a very simple roadmap. There's really just two skills that you just need to get good at. One is creating volume, always starting with VCS. And Mary Beth and I have a lot of success with that and a lot of success stories. And two, as you scale up your business and you want to build selling teams, okay, there's a right way and a wrong way to prospect and to bring people through a preparation process so that people know what they're in. And as we sponsor them, full expectations. We don't have to deceive anybody, manipulate anybody. We're clear-eyed about what this business is and what it is not. So really, it's just the two skills. What is the difference maker? And that's where you're going to take off with, and that is the way we think, our outlook, our perspective, and the kind of work ethic we have. And I just want to turn over to Mary Beth. She's going to run with this, and enjoy yourself, hon.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And again, thank you, Jody and Kathy, for having us. We are honored and thrilled to be here, really. So our goal today is to, like Joe said, is to raise your belief. All businesses go through cycles. We've been in 37 years, Jody and Kathy a little bit longer than us, but they have seen the same thing previous to us getting in. This business goes in cycles, whether it be in the macro level or even just within your own organization. And so I'm going to kind of talk about that a little bit with a part of our organization, a little bit of backstory here. Outside of some of our larger legs where we have a lot of leaders that Joe and I, we don't have to do the physical work in those particular legs right now because there are plenty of people in those organizations who know what they're doing. But we're always looking to the future. We're always looking to develop those new organizations that are coming on. They all have personalities of their own. Some have momentum, some don't. Some have a lot of new IBOs in them. Some have people that have been around the business for a long time. They love the business, but it's just not, it hasn't started to grow for them for whatever reason. And so, or it's not growing as fast as they would like. And a little clue here, it never grows as fast as you want. So after 37 years, we're still not where we want to be. And it has nothing to do with being greedy and wanting more money. We just have, for someone who's a winner and who wants to win, this is a great place to win. And you're never satisfied because there's always more people to help and to let them experience what this business has to offer and whatever it is that they want for their life. So a little bit of background. So part of this organization that Joe and I are personally working with, we like to call them our futures team because this is the next generation in our business. Many of you, if you were in our organization, you would probably be a part of that futures team that maybe you have not hit that platinum level yet. And so we're looking for ways, all right, these people have been around a while and they've been in business with us for years. They love the business. And you know what? They know how to show the plan. It's a matter of, are they showing enough plans? Are they taking enough action? And so we needed to get them into the action mode. Maybe that's you. Maybe you're out there, your hair on fire, and you've got no problem with, showing the plan to people, selling products, and you're just doing that. But I know for that part of our organization, we needed to get them in the action mode. And this is not something I'm telling you that you had to do, but we had to do something that in our minds we could get that part of our organization moving forward. And not just moving, but also believing in themselves. And so, because we've always believed in them, but we can believe in people, but we don't want to wait on people, right? I never wanted my business to be the pace of my business to be determined by my downline, because some people just aren't ready to run now. Some are, some aren't. And so we were looking to do something for this part of our organization, and we created what we call an accountability team. These are people who volunteered, who wanted to be a part of it, weren't brand new people. These are people who've been around a while, who know Joe and Mary Beth and our hearts and what we're trying to do in our organization. It might have been, 12 to maybe 15 people max. They were part of this team, and it was something that they volunteered for. They wanted to be a part of it. We started a chat group so that they could be accountable to each other. We're very motivated by our upline, but I'll tell you what, one of the biggest, I would say probably the biggest motivator for Joe and Mary Beth as we were going platinum was our peers crossline, that we did not want to get left behind. And we've learned how to create that environment within this part of our organization, and really just starting with this small group of 12 to 15 IBOs who wanted to be accountable to each other in this chat group. So they would put in there, the activities that they were taking, the sales that they had made. You know what? It may seem like little things, but it's those little things that you celebrate when you're trying to gain momentum in your organization and that camaraderie within your team. It's those little things that make such a huge difference, because it's inspiring, because every single one of us has the same emotions. We have the same doubts. We have the same fears, but we also have the same desire to want to move on and to be with the bigger team. And so this chat group helped to inspire those IBOs talking to each other through this chat group, hon?
Yeah, that's, if you don't mind.
Sure.
With this, let me tell you, this group, there were no new IBOs in there. I want you all to hear that loud and clear. This was a group that had watched us work with a lot of other organizations through the years, and they had seen other groups move on.
Right.
And they were wondering whether or not, now listen to me, whether this business would work for them.
Right.
And when you talk about that accountability team, listen, the most important thing that came out of that is that people wanted to perform for what? Our edification, for recognition. Man, I learned this from Jody, that favorite expression, babies cry for it, men die for it. Okay, when you as an upline pay attention to people in your downline, when they know you care, they will perform for that. If you've earned their respect and you have credibility and you got a good reputation, let me tell you, that's what was going on here. Okay. So when Mary Beth, you were saying, we would recognize any little thing that they were doing right. Look, this is not a canned talk for the Victor team. We know who we're talking to. We've been in your shoes. And the thing that lit people up is that when we paid attention to the little things that they were doing to advance that might not be the flashy stuff, the cool, sexy stuff, like the big, like this person's going from here to here. But when people were when we were paying attention to the little progress people were making, they would do what more? They would do more of the things that would give them recognition privately and publicly. And in that accountability team, boy, let me tell you, they wanted to perform not just for us, but for their peers. So this was a little tactic, a thing that we learned through the years, among others, that made a difference. And I just keep going with this because this is really good.
Because, you know, those what are seemingly little victories for these IBOs are actually in their mind huge mountains that they've overcome, doubts and fears that they've overcome. And what's that do? That builds their belief and that makes them want to take more action, which is what we're after, right? Because we want their businesses moving forward. And that was probably a good year to, I don't know how long we had that accountability
Almost
group.
2 years.
Almost 2 years before, you know, it takes time to get traction. And so, but from that, we started seeing some successes in the sponsoring realm, but also in the VCS realm. And from there, we moved to what we call our Elevate webinar, which is, it's opened up to a little bit more of our organization. And it's just a monthly webinar that Joe and I do to showcase. We might have a specific message that we want to get to them, but it was more about showing success to the rest of that organization, maybe at a lower level. We set it at 300 PV, 60% VCS, on a monthly basis, and we would do a webinar once a month, and people would qualify. They could watch it. And so, in that same thing, creating that environment where peers can motivate peers, where peers can see success, they can maybe catch a nugget here and there of things that maybe they could tweak in their own business. And so we've been doing that. I think we just did our 13th one. So just over a year, we've been doing that, starting to see some traction there. Again, I'm not saying that you have to do that, but as a leader, you need to figure out what you need to do, what your organization needs to help them start getting that traction or to continue with success if they're having that already.
So when groups are stuck, it isn't necessarily the big stories.
Right.
Of somebody sponsoring 12 or 1,000 PV personal circle with 60% VCS. It was many IBOs now invested in what's happening here, moving just a little bit. And what we would do is recognize them. And the other thing is, it wasn't just Mary Beth and I talking at them. We were talking with them. Just not just teaching them something, but actually giving them a chance to participate and do the teaching and the recognition among their peers. I mean, it's a little technique. I hope you're hearing this. It helped us unlock people.
Because
For
now they
sure.
got skin in the game, right? You
Yeah.
know, if they know that they've got something going on, that they're going to be asked to share, and so that they're prepared, so they're not just in cruise mode. You know, you can't just cruise mode, this whole business to whatever level you want. You've got to be mentally and physically engaged, and so that's one of our things that we wanted to do for that part of our team. But also, I want to encourage you to take advantage of all the things that Amway has to offer as well. There's so much information on the website, and I'm sure MMP has things that they provide for you as well. But one thing we just recently did, we did a Begin 30 challenge with the launch of the new Wellness Plus app. This part of our organization, we said, hey, we're going to do this Begin 30 challenge, and we started a chat group for the IBO, separate from the one we already had, but because we wanted to also include customers. If they had customers who wanted to be involved, we wanted them to see it as well and to be able to participate. So we did the Begin 30 challenge. We finished it up.
You and I did personally.
Yeah, we did it. Actually, we were part of the beta, so we've done it twice. And it was really encouraging in that chat group for people. We had a section for recipes. We had a success stories. Successes they were having. Customers could post in there as well. And so we took advantage of that. And it was really cool. And it was a big success. And actually, there's several people who are going to do another 30 days. So that's something we did. And also, I just want to give a shout out to the new the Buy, Repeat, Earn loyalty program that the company has just launched for IBOs. I won't go into all the details. I'm sure they'll be talking about it maybe this weekend, but also it's on the website. You should have gotten an email about how this program for your customers works.
Buy, repeat, earn.
Yes, that's right. And all of us probably have customers who order regularly, but then you've got those ones who order every once in a while. And I'll just say this program at the launch has been, number one, it's an amazing program. It's awesome. We're very, very thankful to the company for starting this, but also it has given we've encouraged our IBOs, and it's given them an opportunity for them to reach out to those customers who maybe order occasionally, once every 3 months, or maybe even only twice a year, to say, hey, just want to touch base. And 9 times out of 10, these people will start ordering again. Maybe not necessarily because of the program, hopefully so, but the fact that the IBO, it kind of just triggers them. Hey, I haven't ordered in a while. I love the products. We need to get going. So that's another thing we did. So,
let me throw something out
Yeah.
on this one. We're finding out that the average registered customer, the median number of orders that a registered customer makes in a year is like 2.
yeah,
So here it is, the buy, repeat, earn. If they do 3 straight months of at least 150 PV,
right.
this is all straight
$150.
$150. I'm sorry, $150. That's straight VCS for us. The third month they get $75 off.
Right.
And the idea is, okay, well that's a win, because now there's a third month involved, and we can get them going through another one. They can repeat it another 3 straight months, and that's a big deal. So you look at those little opportunities we have within the Amway business to be able to maneuver and to be able to create momentum of customers and sponsoring. Keep going.
Yep. So I'm going to speed it up here because I know you've got a lot of success stories you want to share with them. But I would just say part of this part of our team that was lacking 2 things: in confidence. They knew how to show the plan. They just didn't have the confidence. They had lost their mojo, and for whatever reason. But also a sense of urgency. And I would say, when we got started, that was something that we had. I don't know why, it just was innate in us. We had a sense of urgency. We just believed. And I think that it's not just your work, but it's an intentional lifestyle. It's an intentional lifestyle of an IBO, that everything we did had a purpose, and we were very focused on what we wanted, because we knew what we wanted. And so I know for us, looking back, our work ethic matched our faith level, or you could say belief level, because when you believe, you're going to do the work, and you're going to overcome those fears and doubts that we all have. And I've got an intentional lifestyle counteracts your comfort zone. When you stay in your comfort zone, you incentivize procrastination. And if you've all read The Magic of Thinking Big, the 3 failure diseases: detailitis, excuseitis, and procrastination. And it's that sense of urgency that counteracts that failure, those failure diseases. And so I would encourage you to really, if you are falling into one of those categories and you've got one of those failure diseases, identify it and just take action. Whatever it is, take some action to overcome that and just get you out of being stuck in your comfort zone and getting back out again. And when you have an intentional lifestyle, you easily get rid of all the clutter, all the stuff that goes on in your mind, and it's easier to set priorities. And that's what we did early in our business. We set priorities, what was important to us, and what were we willing to do to be able to make those priorities a reality, make those priorities so that we could have the dreams and goals that were important to us come to fruition. And so I'm going to close with this real quick story. You know, Joe and I purchased some land recently. It's been a couple years ago. This land has been in this family's for probably decades. So they had, I think it used to be a farm at one point, but there's a little bit of acreage there. But they have they have all kinds of old trees, really old trees. They've got like black walnuts. We found fig trees that we didn't know we had. What else? There's grapevines. We've got 2 great big rows of grapevines. And we owned the property for 2 years and did nothing with anything out there. But I don't know how many years prior to that, these grapevines have just gone awry. They need to be pruned every single year. And in the 2 years that we owned it, we did nothing. So you can imagine what they look like. They were growing up the trees. It was kind of a mess out there. And so, you know, I liken those vines to our minds sometimes when we get out of the mode and we tend to veer off and we forget maybe why we got started in business to begin with, that you've let these vines get entangled in your brain and just all the clutter of life. There's so much stuff out there. And those people who can get rid of the stuff, they can prune those vines of their mind and get rid of all that clutter and make it clear their vision of why they got started. And you have to keep that vision in front of you, but you've also got to keep pruning those vines every single year. It's not something, for us really as an IBO, it's doing it every single day. It's not something that if you let it go, it gets crazy wild and you can easily get distracted and you forget, you know, what's important to you and why you got started and what's important to you. And so,
Mary Beth,
yes.
Just on those vines,
Yep.
Not only were the vines so overgrown and out of control, and therefore they were not producing fruit.
Right.
The trellises were just torn down because of the weight of all this. But the other thing, and think about this, you spent, I remember, hours, days and days and days. You weren't even pruning the vines yet. You were pulling out and cutting out the briars and the weeds of all that. Remember, see the parallel here. We want fruit, don't we? And we made a decision. We're going to resurrect these grapevines because obviously at one time they were producing fruit, but they're overgrown, all kind of weeds and briars and thorns all growing up in there. And even before we touched the vines,
Right.
You spent more time, all those thorns, all the weeds in their mind, within the vines.
Right.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah. And so it was a job for sure, but it's a job of keeping, it's up to you to keep those vines in your mind and keep that clutter out of your brain. And when you do that, it makes life, you can travel so much lighter. I don't know if that makes sense, but there's a lightness that comes with that you're not confused, you're not distracted because you know what you want, you're focused, and you're not swayed by. And when you have that in your life, it's easier to say no to things. Some people have a hard time saying no. And it's not that you don't care, it's that you've got a job to do. We had a job to do. We wanted to build our family business because we had high dreams, high expectations of ourselves. We had dreams that we wanted to achieve, and we knew what we needed to do to set our family business up. And so we just had to say no to some things. We didn't say no to everything, but we just had to learn how to decipher what was really important now and what's something that we could handle later. And so we got really good at that. You know, you guys got some of the biggest dreamers out there in Jody and Kathy, and you are so blessed to be a part of their organization because they are pillars to so many people. I pray that you don't take them for granted and know that they have been that person, that couple that has been able to hopefully prune some of that clutter out of your brain just by the fact that they've been so steady in building their business for all these years. So I know Joe's got a lot of success stories to share with you, some things that are happening in our organization that I know is going to help build your belief and know that it's out there for you too. So anyways, I'll just turn it over to you, hon.
Yeah, it's really good. When I hear about that story and I hear about sense of urgency, you know, I know who we're talking to, and it requires discipline. You know, it's these stories I'm going to share with you, they're not meant to discourage you. They're meant to raise your belief. And the stories I'm going to share with you are not some of the real big stuff with those big pins, and you know, those are impressive, but for the majority of people in our business, sometimes those really big stories of people that have accomplished great things in this business, sometimes they discourage people. And, you know, it doesn't help the self-image. And the reason why we talk about sense of urgency is a mindset, not like, you know, just the work ethic, but a mindset, is because what that does is you said it helps clear the clutter, and you're able to determine what is the most important. Right. And what we look for still in our personal business is progress. We want to be progressing. So I'll just say this. I'll set this up. A very important book that many of us have read. If you ask, it will be given. If you seek, you shall find it. When you knock, the door will be opened. That is an intentional mindset. All right. So how could I wrap this up? And I know who I'm talking to. And we've talked a lot about this, thought a lot about this. Most people, when they hear the great messages, motivation, instruction, training, how to properly prospect, how do you send out text and you know, create curiosity? How do you meet some people? What's your phone call like? You know, sometimes people are always looking for the technique, the secret. And they think that success is really hidden in those secrets. And it's not true. It is success, at least our experience, is in what is your expectation. Our expectation is Joe and Mary Beth are not the last ones out there that actually think that this is a good business. Joe and Kelly are not the last ones out there. Steve and Marcia, Jody and Kathy are not the last ones out there. There are so many people out there in the marketplace looking for a chance. You know, when I look at when I was young and immature, and, you know, we would think success is in cars and homes and, you know, huge bank accounts. And this is not Mary Beth. Material stuff and women and money and travel. And that's what you see in the movies. That's what you think success is. And it was so far from the truth, our experience. For me, I'm going to tell you personally, success wasn't found and happiness wasn't found in luxury and material wealth. For me, I wanted success. I wanted happiness in our marriage. I wanted to be productive and effective. I want great friends. I want to laugh a lot. I want to make an impact. I want to be able to have a life of significance, not just success. We want to make a difference. I want more confidence, more self-image. I said to friends, I want laughter. I want to laugh a lot, purpose. Yes, I want financial reward. Yes, all that's in there. And achievement and longevity, all of those things. I found a lot of satisfaction when we can help other people and they say the words, thank you. And our expectation is we're not the last ones out there. I want to tell you, and I don't have enough time to get through all of these stories, but here's been the breakthrough for a lot of our people. When we stop putting guilt trips on those IBOs for not being further along. When people stopped being so down on themselves because they weren't 15 wide and had 80 customers and all this other stuff and all kind of profit. When they realized that there were people out there just like them, and we've planted enough seeds. We've talked to enough people. We've sold enough product. There are going to be people out there that are going to want to do what we do. I'm going to tell you, under one of our bigger organizations, there are a couple named Stephen and Lauren. Actually, Stephen started his business like 15 years ago as a single guy. I mean, he was really dorky, very uncomfortable, didn't have great self-image, but Stephen, he so kind of built his business, trying to figure things out, learning some people skills. It was working on him, but he hadn't a whole lot, did not have a whole lot of success. Lives out in St. Louis, little Stephen. But he met a cute girl named Lauren who was in school to be a veterinarian. 4 years ago, remember, this guy, Stephen's been in his business for 15 years. Meets this girl named Lauren, they get married. 4 years ago, just 4 years ago, they had 6 people on their team. 6 people on their team. They've been in the business a long time. But he went to a conference. Now, this is why I think, I have, just a little side note, 4 pillars of belief. Belief drives everything. Belief increases action. When you believe, you're going to take action. When you believe, you're going to talk to people. When you believe, you're going to sell product. He went to a conference, the 4 pillars of belief. I say this, you help a new person, sponsor somebody for them, help them sell a product so they can make some retail profit, VCS, help them change brackets. And number 4, I try to get them into some sort of a conference so they can get around this energy, this belief. Stephen and Lauren went to one of these conferences 4 years ago with 6 people on the team. Remember, this guy's been in his business for 11 years up to that point, 11 years. And he finally, something clicked. And he started seeking out his upline and said, hey, we are ready to really move on. We see it for us now, not for those people are real successful. We see it for us. What do we need to do? Just got some basic instructions and with his belief. And here's what happened. They sponsored a couple named Robbie and Alexis. By the way, Robbie and Alexis since that time have gone platinum. They've helped them go platinum. By the way, it wasn't just Stephen and Lauren that helped them go platinum. It was coordination with the upline. Since this time, Robbie and Alexis get started. They go platinum, actually running. They have a really good organization, but outside of the organization as a platinum, they're running 13,000 PV now on a monthly basis. Watch this. Alexis talks to her friend, Lexi. Actually, her name is Alexis, but we call her Lexi. And her boyfriend come to a conference 4 years ago. 4 years ago, Tony and Lexi come to this conference. This last month, Tony and Lexi had their third leg that hit platinum. Platinum leg 1, platinum leg 2, and platinum leg 3. You know what that is? And in fact, they're probably going to go 12 straight months with 3 platinum legs, Tony and Lexi. Tony and Lexi at this last month's, the winter conference had over 300 people on their team that are selling product, have selling teams, 300 people this last conference. Remember, this is 4 years after Stephen and Lauren with 6 people in their group. Now they've got Robbie and Lexus, who outside of Tony and Lexus are running 13,000 points as a platinum. And now Tony and Lexi just broke their third finished qualification, a third platinum leg. They're probably going to go 12 out of 12 this year, 300 people. One of their best IBOs, 6 deep of platinums in that organization, is a young couple named Zach and Haley. If you see this couple, you would never believe that they're successful. He's a boxer. Yes, boxer. She is a tattoo artist. Do you understand what that is? They're both all inked up. That's not a bad thing. But when you look at them, they don't look like Joe and Mary Beth. I'll just tell you that. But they are a brand new platinum. They're at the bottom of that leg, 6 platinums in depth. Last week's, I just checked on this from the upline, last week's open meeting, their weekly open meeting, Stephen and Lauren Edwards had over 400 people at that info session. Remember, Stephen and Lauren, who are now 6 deep in platinums. 400 people they had, 4 years ago, they had 6 people in the organization. What's the lesson out of all of this? First of all, when somebody makes a decision, good things happen. And it wasn't Stephen and Lauren that all of a sudden were rocking. They found somebody who wanted to build this business. Well, Joe, I meet people all the time. I meet people in the marketplace all the time. How come it hasn't happened for me? What do they feel? There's just something, when you come across somebody who have a great self-image, they're optimistic, full of energy, going someplace in life, there is communication that takes place that are outside of words. You know what I'm talking about? It's what you're projecting. Think about that. Let me tell you another part of, I got to skip over a couple of these. There's a young man who started his business at 18 years old. His name is Dominic, out in the Midwest. Dominic, by the way, doesn't come across as somebody that, just has the appearance of super success. Dom still lives at home, okay? It's not a bad thing. I think it's pretty smart. He's saving up his money. Dom is a single guy, doesn't even have a college degree. At this last conference, Dom had 12 different selling teams at that conference, 116 people on his team. Dom is a platinum running 20,000 PV. He is 21 years old, by the way. 21,000 PV. Let me tell you, wow, that's impressive. Let me tell you, he is like 10 in depth under somebody's leaders. And you know what? The person that registered him, I don't even know where he's at. I don't even think he's still in the business anymore. But Dom is underneath somebody, part of somebody else's organization. And let me tell you, I just saw the stats on Dominic. Dominic, his organization is one of the highest in North America. For what? For IBOs who unlock sponsoring. How do you unlock sponsoring? $300 in VCS. So don't think this is just like Dom, just a great sponsoring guy. The majority of his 80% of his organization are apprentices or first contract year IBOs, and 81% of his whole organization are first contract year IBOs, and his rate that he unlocks sponsoring is over 40%. 40%. Which is incredible, one of the highest in North America. They know how to get people started, and they're starting them with VCS. What's my point? It may not be you, but if it's somebody that you know, who knows somebody, Let me give you another illustration. A guy named Luke. Another example, Luke. Luke was 5 in depth under a couple named Reagan and Carey. 5 in depth. He started his business as a senior in college up in Pennsylvania. Luke, single guy, every single week he drove an hour and a half one way to go to an open meeting. It's not typical, let me tell you, not everybody do that, but he was so motivated about his business, but he was a single guy in college, had a lot to learn. He met his wife. I don't know if this will make the cut. He met his wife at the bar. Christy.
Sounds familiar.
And truth be told, she was a single mom. This was not like exactly the picture perfect, but it's real life stuff. Okay. So Luke, 5 in depth under Reagan and Carey, now meets his wife. They get married, Christy. After 10 years, are you hearing me? 10 years in business, they had a grand total of 23 people in the group. 10 years. He met a guy at a gas station who was 18 years old. Sponsored this guy and his wife, Matt and Christy. After 10 years, by the way, Matt and Christy today are platinums. Matt sponsored a guy named David, met a 19-year-old guy, I guess, networking, at a bookstore, a guy named David, who sponsored a classmate who stayed in for 2 weeks. But in the 2 weeks, he talked to a friend of his that he knew in Texas who's 72 years old, knew him from the church. And that 72-year-old IBO in Texas, long way away from Pennsylvania, sponsored a couple named Aaron and Agatha. Aaron and Agatha have been in the business for 3 years. They hit 7,500 PV in 10 months of their business. Remember Luke? Luke, just a single guy, college guy, just out there hammering it. But listen to me, 19 years later, a couple named Aaron and Agatha get started in their business. And now Aaron and Agatha are 12 out of 12 platinums. They have a platinum in their downline. They have 3 other silvers in platinum qualification, 125 people in the group. And 25 of those 125 people are in Canada. That business went from Texas to Canada. Is Luke and Christy excited? Yeah. I want you to hear this as I wrap on up. I could tell you story after story after story about a guy named Jason who was part of a platinum organization of ours, but things happened in that organization. It all went backwards. The whole group. This sometimes happens. Most of the group just went off and did something else, but Jason stayed in, a single guy. Very poor self-image, not very good in college. Jason stayed in because he believed in Joe and Mary Beth, We believed in him. The environment was good. And he's been in this business for years. And all I said, Jason was struggling, but he'd always had good VCS, but he couldn't really keep people in. I said, Jason, all you got to do is bring somebody that I can work with. And lo and behold, and I'm speeding up this thing, after years and years and years, he brought a couple to us, Stephen and Cassie, out of Anderson, South Carolina. And within a couple of years, Stefan and Cassie were platinums. They were platinum this last year. They'll probably requalify this year, Stefan and Cassie. And here's the point, is that I didn't have to show the plan to Stefan and Cassie. Somebody else found them. Here's how we wrap it up. I got so many stories. It isn't necessarily just you going out and sponsoring 15, 20 new legs, okay? It isn't necessarily that. It's if your expectation that there's other people out there who want to do what we're doing, and as long as you cooperate with a growing upline, with a great attitude and high expectation and optimism, there's going to be people that are going to show up in your organization. And I know this, one IBO, we've seen this time and time again, one IBO can change the whole perspective of an organization, the whole trajectory of a team. One IBO. And that's what we've learned through the years when people are stuck. It isn't that we got to teach them something new. We work on more their expectation and their perspective, their sense of urgency, as Mary Beth talked about, that make every day count and expect that good people are going to show up. Maybe personal, maybe in depth, but this business is so resilient. And we know that there's people that are not in the business today that are going to be some of our biggest, most successful IBOs in the future, and we may not even have to show the plan. We just set a good example. So to the Victor team, look, we thought a lot about this, and we understand how to get people unstuck. We understand it's more up here rather than techniques and just work. It's expectation. We know how to increase belief. We're constantly doing is creating a belief factory by showing people little success stories here and there about people making a sale, about people sponsoring somebody, about good things that people are doing. And collectively, a rising tide raises all ships. This time that we're in right now, my business, we think that this is an amazing time to build this business. I've cited some examples, some real life stuff. I cited that Forbes magazine article, which talked about right now today, how the marketplace is changing and how our business is so right for what people are looking for. And we're positioned so well right now for what people need and are looking for. So Mary Beth,
Yep.
Been a privilege to be able to talk with you all.
Thank you.
And we hope that this makes a difference. We love and appreciate your upline more than you'll ever know. And we look forward to seeing you very, very soon. God bless you all. Thank you for the opportunity.
For the calendar year 2024,